I grew up in the 90s when VHS tapes were still popular. My parents had recorded countless home videos capturing my childhood, birthday parties, Christmases, family vacations. As an only child, they documented everything. When I got older and DVDs became mainstream, the tapes got packed away in boxes and ended up in the attic. I hadn't watched them in over a decade. But recently, after my dad passed away, I felt compelled to dig them out for some nostalgia. The first tape I grabbed was labeled Timmy's 5th birthday. I remembering having a Ninja Turtles theme that year. I popped it in the VCR and nestled into the couch, excited to relive a happy childhood memory. At first, it was exactly as I remembered. The camera panned over the Ninja Turtle decorations my parents had put up, the cake with a plastic Raphael figurine, me tearing open gifts excitedly. But around the 10-minute mark, things took an eerie turn. The camera zoomed in on my face as I ate cake, and I noticed my expression slowly change from joy to fear. My eyes widened, darting around the room wildly, as if watching something terrifying unfold. The microphone picked up the sound of my fork clattering to the plate as I began to tremble. Yet in the background of the shot, the party continued normally. My parents and their friends laughed and talked, oblivious to my terror. The camera stayed fixed in an extreme, close-up on my panicked face for what felt like an eternity. I was paralyzed, shaking, eyes brimming with tears. But why? Abruptly, I shouted, "Turn it off!" The audio clipped from the volume. My dad's face appeared in frame as he switched off the camera. The tape cut to static. I sat there stunned, heart pounding. What the hell had I just watched? That was no ordinary home video. No distinct memories came flooding back to explain it. I rationalized that it must have been edited as a prank. Despite my unease, morbid curiosity got the best of me. I had to see what else was on these tapes. Next, I watched one labeled Timmy's First Camping Trip. For the first 15 minutes, everything seemed normal. My parents and I hiking through the woods, roasting marshmallows at the campfire, playing card games in the tent. Then things got profoundly disturbing. In the middle of the night, the camera switched on in infrared mode, casting an eerie green glow over the inside of the tent. I appeared to be sound asleep in my sleeping bag. After a few minutes, my eyes abruptly shot open. I began whimpering and muttering, No, please, I don't want to," as I stared straight up at the ceiling of the tent. My sleeping bag started rustling around violently. The angles were too tight to see what was happening inside it, but it was clear I was being attacked by some unseen force. My muted pleas shifted to blood-curdling screams that woke my parents up. They searched the tent in confusion, asking where I was hurt. But as soon as they turned the lights on, I went silent. I denied anything was wrong and said I didn't remember waking up. My mind reeled as the tape ended. These were no normal home videos. Some dark, disturbing entity had manipulated them. Had I suffered abuse I'd suppressed? But as I agonized over explanations, my morbid obsession couldn't be stopped. I had to keep watching. The next tape I viewed was titled Cousin Jenny's Wedding. It should have been a joyous occasion. At first it was. Dreamy shots of the bride walking down the aisle, my family smiling in the pews, me giggling as I tossed flower petals. Until the reception when the camera zoomed in on my face midway through dinner. My eyes widened, face paling like I'd seen a phantom. The microphone picked up a choked sob. Then, silently, I rose from my chair and shuffled away off camera. For a while only the backs of guests' heads were visible. Then it cut to me, somehow underneath the main table without anyone noticing. I was curled up in the fetal position, trembling, clinging to the tablecloth. My breathing came in ragged gasps. The microphone picked up a raspy mumbling, but the words were indistinct. From the shadows beneath the table, hands appeared, dozens of appendages slithering towards me, grasping, groping. I writhed and screamed. Again, my family remained enjoying the reception, unaware as the hands dragged me away, deeper into the darkness below the table. The last shot was my fingernails digging futilely into the floor before disappearing into the abyss. By now, I was no longer scared. I was obsessed. I tore through tape after tape, past Christmases, sports games, school plays. Each one started happily before taking a dark, twisted turn. On and on the tapes went. Me panicking on family vacations for no apparent reason, getting yanked from bed at night by unseen forces, escaping the house and turning up missing for hours with no memory of it after. My blood ran cold realizing the truth. Some evil entity had been terrorizing me since childhood, editing itself out so only I could see. I watched the tapes compulsively, barely eating or sleeping, determined to see every last second of the living nightmare. Until finally, I stumbled upon a tape labeled simply Timmy. Hands shaking, I slipped it into the VCR. What I saw shattered my psyche forever. It opened on me around age 8, bouncing a ball in the yard. In the distance over my shoulder stood a tall, shadowy figure staring from the tree line. Between bounces, I would turn and stare back at it uneasily. The camera didn't seem to pick the figure up at all, almost like it was invisible, but I clearly saw it, eyes wide with primal fear. Slowly, it crept closer while my parents gardened obliviously. The tape cut periodically to shots inside the house. In the background, the shadowy figure stood watching me eat dinner at the kitchen table. It loomed over me while I watched cartoons in the den. It lingered outside the bathroom door as I brushed my teeth, always staring with indistinct black eyes. The final scene showed me asleep, in bed. The clock read 3:33 a.m. when the figure emerged from the closet behind moonlit shadows. It towered over my bed, reaching out an appendage that looked vaguely like a human hand covered in writhing worms. As it descended upon me, the screen cut to static. And that's when I remembered everything. Every erased memory of this demon came flooding back. It had haunted me my whole childhood, appearing only when I was alone and vulnerable. I realized my parents could never see it. Only me. I always knew deep down this thing wanted to take me away to the hellish realm it crawled up from. And now, 20 years later, it was still out there, waiting. I could feel its presence close again like a dark spreading stain on my psyche. I was no longer the helpless child it could torment at will. Now I was ready to confront the evil that ruined my childhood, no matter what it took.